got it. There we go. Hey! Permit on. All right. Yeah. Bonefish right there. There we go. Bonefish. Ha ha ha. Yeah. There you go. Hey, that's 2. Got our tarpon. Sun's, whoa, over there. All right, there's our tarpon. Hey everybody, how we doing today? So today's video is a long overdue review of the Esky 10-pound light backcountry rods. So as you've seen by the prior clips there, I've been putting these guys to work chasing the grand slam fish down here in the Keys, which are the bonefish, permit, and tarpon. I've successfully landed more than half a dozen of each of the species, so super happy with that. So I figure, hey, why not throw the review out now? Good time to kind of let people know what I'm using them and why. So today's video, I'm going to kind of give you a brief overview of these rods, and then I'm going to go do something different. I'm going to show you what's inside these rods. Now the rods I'm featuring today are the 10-pound braided line rated, which would make them kind of like a light, medium light rod. Either the original 7-foot version or the new 7.5-foot version. Now a couple of key characteristics on these rods are, one, these are all custom hand-built rods. They're made by the Esky family. You got Dave the dad and Harrison the son actually building these rods. What that means is that even though you go in and actually just buy it off the rack, it is still custom hand built. And two is that if you don't find the exact specs that you want for your actual rod, it makes no difference to them because they're hand building them. So you just tell them, oh, I want a cork base, I want X amount of eyelets on there, you want certain distances, you want certain wraps, you want certain colors. It doesn't matter because they're all custom hand built, so making those changes is no big deal. The second key characteristic is that these are 100% through and through extruded carbon rods, much different than your standard graphite tube rods. Basically the way these rods are built is they dump in a bunch of carbon pellets into a heating furnace and basically melts those carbon down. They put it into an extruded pressurized machine and it basically spits out a rod. That rod is then milled down and laid down until it actually comes out of a blank. The third key characteristics, in which they actually are more focused on than that unique blank, is how they assemble these. One of the key parts is that they don't use any types of filler for any of the base here. Okay, a lot of rods you'll find, to quickly make them solid, they'll wrap them in cardboard or paper or fill them full of gunk, and that keeps them solid until they start breaking down and then things start getting loose. Where all these, there's just basically, you got a cork grip and it goes straight to that graphite, and then there's specially epoxy that they use to bond those, so you never really have to worry about those things loosening up on you. Now the action on these carbon rods are a bit different as well. I describe them as a slower parabolic. Parabolic means is that there's a gradual bend from the rod butt all the way through the rod tip, more like just a standardized arc. Where a normal fishing pole, you tend to have more of a backbone from the rod butt through halfway or 2/3 of the way. Then you start getting more of the flexibility as you get to the end there. That changes things up in a couple of ways. One, I found out my casting style had to change because these, especially these flats rods, tend to react a lot more to just smaller whips, okay, versus a long action cast. And that actually helped out once I got that figured out. So like when I'm moving up and then I see a permit or bonefish, you don't have a lot of reaction time. And so that being able to just do a quick little wrist flick and get that long distance just as easily as a full throw really helps out. And also the other thing it does is that it creates less motion that the fish can see, because they can actually, like a permit, can see really well even above water. So not having to do that full whip and just being able to just wrist flick and get that same distance really helps out. Also with the tarpon, you'll see is that I'm just using like a little 1/8 ounce jig head and that little 2 5/8 inch paddle tail. But with these rods, I can skip cast very easily. They flick that bait and allow it bounce along the top of the water underneath those mangroves, and that's where I'm really hammering those tarpon. You'll also see around the charter guides around Key West are really switching over to the Esky rods, these carbon rods, because they're finding out that they're a lot more durable. Instead of replacing their gear, the rods every year, because they tend to be abused quite a bit, because you have a lot of fishermen that are not really saltwater or sports fishing knowledgeable, so their equipment tends to get beat up. With these carbon rods and that parabolic, it really helps out and reduces the amount of damage that they take. Also, what it does is that the catch rate increases even with those beginner or novice anglers. Because of that so much parabolic and that flexibility on it, it absorbs a lot of mistakes. For instance, those really speedy fish like a bonefish or permit that just off the blocks will just rip and drag, okay? Where a lot of times when you don't have a lot of flexibility, you could end up pulling hooks, breaking leader, breaking line, breaking knots, and so forth. But also for jumping fish like tarpon, where you got to get through those head shakes and so forth. If you're not a knowledgeable angler knowing about bowing and doing it at the right timing, you might lose a lot more fish. But with these parabolic rods and a lot more flexibility in them, it absorbs those so that there's more of a chance that they're going to land that fish by the rod kind of absorbing those mistakes. So very, very versatile rods. Now going back to the 100% carbon blanks there, because that is a thing that makes these rods totally different than normal fishing rods. How do you know, or what does it actually look like? So let's take a look at what's actually inside these rods. Now, I wish there was another way, but this is science. Screw that, I'm not gonna bust up my nice new rod. So I went and got a piece from Esky, so this is just a part that they cut off of another rod. Now looking at these rod blanks, especially in the unfinished parts, it looks like pencil lead, and even this blank here, but it definitely is not pencil lead. These are 100% carbon, where pencil lead is a type of carbon. It's actually graphite mixed with clay, so it's softer. But this 100% carbon stuff is definitely not pencil lead, and you're not going to get any rotting done with it. All right, let's see what it takes to see what's inside this thing. Starting to split, just kind of like wood almost, but it is not coming apart very easily. I think I'm breaking my concrete. Well, that's different than I thought. I thought it would come off into like a powdery form, but it is dusty. But as you can see, that thing is splintering lengthwise. I'm going to get shards. But all it does is just crunch the end. It really hasn't done much beyond that. It's still pretty much holding its form, and it's not going to break this way. It would split before it does that. And you can see how much abuse it's taking. But there's that powder that's more consistent with what I thought it would be there. But then you have all these shards. Well, now we know. Now, one other quick test I want to try out is, will it burn? Well, I hope it doesn't explode. That would be bad. Kind of like a briquette, maybe, sorta. Don't explode, don't explode, don't explode. And stay, stay, stay. And we want to grill some fish. So I think it's like a charcoal briquette in that regards. Well, that's kind of interesting. Boy, these can take some abuse. You got the hammered side, you got the torch side, and it's still one piece. I know these rods, I've got them in full sun and submerged in salt water all the time, and they're still one piece and not a smudge on them. So definitely happy about that. So I guess about the only thing I haven't tried is a lightning strike, but summer storms aren't over yet, so keep an eye out for that video. But anyways, if you want to check these rods out, just head over to the Esky rods. They're family owned and operated for 30 plus years here in Key West. You'll find them in the Kmart Plaza. They're a little bit hidden in the kind of the secondary strip mall. Just look for the Karate Dojo and they're right next door. The other thing is I've started adding my All About the Bait jig heads and soft plastics at the store there. So you can find the 25 packs and the jig heads, both the fish heads and the cobras in the 25. It's more of a kind of a more guide hardcore fisherman store, so you generally buy the bulk pack, so that's why I've got the 25s there. And then I've also got the 2 5/8 inch and the 4 inch soft plastics over there, just the single colors, not the combo packs. Basically any of the $10 packs I've got set up over there, so you can check those out as well. As well as, of course, I've got all the yellowtail jigs there, and including that 75 pack of 5 of each color and each size is there as well. So anyways, if you're interested in those, check those out. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video. Bye.